Dearly beloved, we are gathered here to witness the joining of Curtis and Victoria in holy matrimony. Do you, Curtis, take Victoria to heaven to hold from this day forward till death do you part? What welder has joined, let no one set asunder. Let us pray.
Hey, welcome back to the Flannel Channel. I'm Philip, and this is another episode with Curtis Lowe. This is our 1979 Ford F-150 that we are doing a body swap onto a 2003 Ford Crown Victoria. So if you're new to the channel, if you're new to kind of what's happening here, welcome. I'm glad you're here, and let's get you caught up to speed. It's been a really busy week, lots of new things happening, and you finally get to see the cab and the chassis together. So exciting stuff. Let's jump into the action. So Jacob drove the car under its own power with the seats and everything on its new rolling stock the way that it is. We brought the front clip in because we're going to be using that to help determine where the cab needs to sit. We're going to find our center line on the fenders and mock out where our firewall of the cab needs to go, and we're going to get the cab lifted up by the hoist, and then we'll get the car back underneath. So that's the next step. So what we've done here is kind of slid the front clip where it sits in conjunction with the cab. And the reason we're doing that is because we want to get a center of the wheel opening mark so that we know on the Crown Vic the center line of the wheel to the firewall line. So we need to get a measurement here of center to firewall, and that'll tell us where the cab is going to sit here on the Vic. So we can take that same center line and then know, okay, our firewall is going to sit right here, and that'll help us with some of our trimming that we know we need to do back here so we don't take too much off. So what we've done here is kind of eyeballed and measured both where we think the wheel opening is in conjunction to our fender, and once both of us agreed that we really like that for a center line, we made sure it's the same side to side. And then I just used this beam from some pallet racking that we have, the shelving unit, because it was a nice straight piece. Exactly, you know, what we need. It's close. We're just sort of eyeballing as we go, but it's not an exact science. So I went to firewall to here, 17 1/4, and I know that it's sitting at a little bit of an angle because it's on top of our fender brace right up there. But we're the same on both sides just by eyeballing it. So that tells us, all right, our eyes aren't deceiving us too bad. It looks pretty good. So that's mainly what we're after by setting it all on the ground. And now we can go over to the Crown Vic and we can do the same thing. Now, this isn't perfectly level, obviously, because it's sitting on our crooked engine and harness and all that stuff. But if we eyeball the center of our strut to center of strut over there, and we say, all right, we're pretty happy with where that lines up. That's center of wheel to center of wheel. We measure back 17 1/4. That tells us, all right, that's about where our firewall is going to end up on the truck. So that at least gives us an idea, and we can start using our Sharpie to kind of make some lines and give us at least a rough idea of where we need to start making some cuts and some trim areas to prepare. So that's about where our firewall is going to end up on the F-150. And we don't want to go any higher than this because this obviously is our highest point on the entire Crown Vic firewall. So that's going to be the highest point. Anything else, we can actually trim some of this back for height, and obviously we're going to go a little bit narrower. So time to get the grinders out and get going, but we had to make some of these measurements right now while we can. So.
Still busted glass in there. Here we go. Uh-oh. Did I nick a wire? Woo! That was close. I don't think I opened it up. I cut the tape, but not the wire.
Oh, man. Wow. Should be able to see your engine. Oh. I was just saying, it's like gutting a deer. You're seeing stuff you've never seen before. Wow.
Yep, this is absolutely nuts. Yeah, we took a lot of metal off this thing, but like I keep saying, this is what the plan has been from the beginning, that we're going to use the floor and the firewall, the wiring, engine, all that stuff from the Crown Vic. Everything else is going to be truck, and it's important to keep the truck dash to us. So, therefore, it's the Crown Vic that has to do most of the trimming, not the truck. It's important to us to keep as much integrity in the truck as we possibly can and make the Crown Vic match that. So, Yes, we had to get carried away with cutting wheels, with air hammers, with grinders, but this, again, really was kind of the plan. We stayed away from the HVAC case as best we could, and did we lose some strength and some integrity because, of taking some of that out? Sure, you bet. But we're going to be doing our best to not only tie it in with the truck's cowl, the truck's A-pillars, the truck's floors, the rockers. We're also going to be triangulating. We're going to be adding our own metal up in here, things like that. So, yeah, all we can do is say, carry on, move forward, and we're going to obviously be patching up things as we go. But it's time to roll this car back and do another test fit with our cab. But we kept looking at each other going, wow, this is crazy. This feels a lot like when guys chop their tops and stuff like that, and they stand back and go, what did I just do? That's a little bit how this feels. But it's going to be great. And I'm convinced that this is somewhere on the road to awesome. It just feels a little bit overwhelming once in a while. So let's see how we did and see how low we can get this cab.
Test fit and a test start. All right. Yes, nice work. All right. Good job. Let's drop it another 9 inches. What do you say? All right. We were just saying, like, this truck hasn't had an engine running with it since we bought it. So that's kind of fun. And it's really cool to see the color of the wheels next to the paint. That's a first too. So this is fun to see. Fun to hear. Progress. All right, that's it for tonight. We're heading home.
Now, even though I have my new cab corners in here, I'm actually going to be cutting a notch out of that area and bringing it up the same height that this cab support is right back up in here. So it will still keep a little bit of the cab corner in there, but that's my plan because that's part of what's hitting here. And eventually, whatever doesn't get cut and dropped off will be patched. I mean, this rust is gonna leave eventually because it'll be connected to the floor pan, but that's what I need to do now so we can continue to drop the cab further down onto our rockers. Some of you might be curious what we're gonna be doing with the VIN number from the Crown Vic since we took the cowl off. And so let me answer that question for you right now. The plan is we're going to drill the VIN plate off of the cowl and hang on to it. Where we live in the state of Minnesota, the VIN number actually stays with the body of the vehicle, and I have a title for the 79, so that's not a problem there. We're gonna keep the license plates, the insurance, all that stuff as a 79, but I am gonna hang on to the VIN plate just for the sake of having it because, well, you know, documentation's a good thing. I have a title for this car, and the VIN number is actually stamped into many places on this vehicle, including the frame itself. So that's my game plan. Just gonna take the VIN plate off, hang on to it. But for those of you that are curious, this thing will still be licensed and insured as a 79 F-150 because I know in other areas the VIN and the title stays with the frame or with the chassis, but this thing would only be confusing to law enforcement or anybody else if they saw it going on the road. Licensed as a Crown Victoria, but it looks like a pickup truck, so that's what I'm gonna do. There, something kind of like that. I'm making a nice keychain. Now, something that many folks might not know is that the rocker area on Crown Vics actually has an aluminum section that is bolted in, and you cannot get to these bolts because it's completely surrounded by steel. So because we had to cut this section of the rockers out anyway, out of the Crown Vic. We can now access this, and I would love to leave it in because it adds some strength and rigidity, but the problem is I can't weld to it. And obviously, it's a big source of corrosion when you put two different types of metal next to one another. You're just asking for trouble, especially up here in the rust belt. So I'm getting that thing out of there, and I haven't decided yet if I'm gonna put a piece of steel in its place or just leave it out and have enough strength and rigidity, having the rockers of the truck welded to the rockers of the car, and maybe that'll be enough. I'm not sure, but for sure I need to take this aluminum out. So that's what I'm doing right now, just unbolting it. So one more quick test we're gonna do now that the cab is sitting so close to the car. Let's plug in our wiper motor and make sure that everything works there. Okay. Nice. Awesome. That was all your project too. Nice job, dude.
Thanks.
The pickup's gonna have delay wipers. It's never had that. Gonna have cruise control, power seats, air conditioning, all the things. Yes! Okay, carry on. We got inches to go.
It's really hard to keep straight. Oh man.
All right, so time for a quick mock-up. We just wanted to see ride height, where everything's at. We definitely gained more height right there. What did we say, 3.5 more inches we went down?
Yeah, or so.
And now our rockers are actually below frame height in the back. We need to bring the front down another 1.25 inches at least. And we're still measuring where we need to be in conjunction to our center line. But we're close, we're very close, and it's just a matter of how much more do we keep going down. But it's fun to mock it up and say, all right, what more needs to get trimmed before we can start welding. Obviously, we're gonna keep getting some interference in here, and we can only go so far. So that's gonna be one of the limiting factors right in there. But yeah, not to worry. We know we're gonna have to put a fill-in panel in there eventually. We probably trimmed more than we had to, but those were two really good spots to be able to stop on both vehicles because they were pinch welds. And so that gives us good flanges to be able to weld to when it's time to add a filler panel in there. So yeah, I'm happy with it. You happy?
Oh yeah.
Heck yeah, sweet. And we have a plan for center console. Our dash will definitely fit, which is really important to us. Wipers work, and we're gonna call it a night for tonight. Go home, get some rest, come back tomorrow. Keep trimming, keep dropping, and the plan is for marriage day tomorrow, right? Mm-hmm. Hopefully getting first welds in, and for Christmas, what's the plan for Christmas, Jacob?
Christmas burnout.
Christmas burnouts, woo! All right, let's go get some sleep. All right, so I decided that I'm going to trim the inner fender area on our front clip, and we're gonna use most of the bracing for the hood and the fenders, but we're not gonna utilize all of it because we have some plastic inner fenders that we're gonna kinda utilize as well. And this wouldn't fully clear everything that is happening under the hood. So I, last night, made some marks with the Sharpie. I'm gonna get in there and cut this off level, and eventually I plan to box that in, but I need to use this front clip for some alignment to help me know exactly where we need to line up for our cab. So time to get some cutting, fresh wheels. All right, so what did we learn in our first test fit? Well, a couple things. I know now that for sure I'm going to take off these mounts. That's no surprise at all. And I'm also going to cut this piece off my frame horns because there's just no way that can stay. The next thing is I have seen other people that moved the entire cooling system, the radiator, the coolers, the fan shroud, everything back about 1 inch. And one of the guys I saw do this, it might have even been Hot Rod Garage, I don't remember, but I think they utilized the rear hole as the front and just moved everything back 1 notch. So I think I'm going to try that because that'll buy me some space up here. It does get a little bit tight if you go too far, but I'm going to give that a whirl as well after I cut my brackets and things like that off. And I also learned that I think I'm going to have to take these off as well. And so again, no surprise, that's just the name of the game. Test, fit, cut, and keep doing that until you start to get the results you need.
There we go. A couple chunks taken out of that thing. Let's test fit it again. Boom, you get to see it for the first time with me right now. And I love it. It's got a little bit of a tire tuck to it. And yeah, just the right look. I can tell that my driver's side needs to come ahead because I'm not lined up with my center line. I'd say a good inch on the driver's side. We're closer on the passenger side. But what we're gonna do is probably use the string method, go across. Make sure everything's square with the cab before we start welding. But that's why we're doing it this way. Man, that's fun to look at. Yep. That is the stance I wanted. All right, well, that is gonna do it for this episode. And I need to get this video off to edit so it can be posted in time, but that's an update. I'm gonna get the front of the cab to go another inch lower. I'm gonna get the driver's side to go an inch ahead, get everything right where I want it before we start welding that cab on. But thanks for joining me. I appreciate each one of you. And if you want to interact with me, you will find me over at Instagram. It's at @flannel_Philip. And I don't see the comments here on YouTube. If you're interested in some merch, we have hoodies and t-shirts, Flannel Philip merch over there at GoShineOn.com. So go check that out. I appreciate each one of you following the build, start to finish. And if you haven't seen any of the early episodes, go back and check them out as we're stripping down the Crown Vic, doing the tune-up and all the work that went into this thing. And it's awesome. I'm really happy with it. So thanks, everybody. Peace and grease.